Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Nau mai haere mai ki te zui, ko Ronnie Nien tuku ingoa, he aha te mea nui o tēnei ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. Nau mai haere mai. Kia ora everybody, my name is Ronnie and welcome to our Zoom session today on submitting the ECE return. The whakatauki today was what's the most important thing in the world? The people, the people, the people, which is exactly what the ECE return is about, is the ministry is capturing data about your people. So we're going to help you through the process of submitting your RE7 today. Each year they seem to bring in a different change and this year it's about staff leaving and staff starting and a little bit of history for your employees as well. So I'll go through the process of submitting the ECE return right from woe to go. Sit back, relax, thank you for your time and let's get started. Awesome. So submitting your ECE return. So this message has been updated to say that it was last week for the ECE return where the ministry is capturing children's data and staff data. And so we're going to go through the process of submitting the ECE return and what exactly you're providing to the ministry. So to go through the process of submitting your ECE return, you need to make sure that first you have got sign-in sheets for the week and they've actually been recorded for children's actual attendance. You also need to have staff timesheets for the week as well. So for home-based services, you don't typically have staff timesheets, but we absolutely recommend that you have staff timesheets for your coordinators for the week of the ECE return to make things easier for you when you're going through to submit it. So those are the two key parts that we need before we go through to submit the ECE. When we come to reports, come down to MOE reports and now select ECE return census. Like with all screens, your RE7s and all of that, there's always important information. So it's a really good idea to read what you've got on screen before continuing. So it's talking about children's actual attendance, that your staff details are up to date. And of course, you've got staff timesheets for your coordinators if you're home-based, and that all children have been allocated an NSN. Of course, as you know, children can't go on to child daily sign-in sheets unless they have been allocated a national student number. Now, here's a helpful link here, and we recommend clicking it so that you've got two tabs side by side. So this is the information that the ministry has provided about the ECE return, who you should be including, all of that sort of stuff. So if you have it side by side, you can go in between submitting your CE return and what information is actually being captured. As well too, it talks about the different types of roles within and what you should select for permanent staff, what's considered full-times, what's considered senior management. So this is to help you put in the information about your teaching teams as well. So going through the process, we've got our ECE return week automatically populated as the 13th of June for you. So we simply click continue. This information that they're capturing here is about waiting times. So if you have a parent that comes in today and they have a child, say, under the age of 1, how long would that parent have to wait for that child to be able to start at your service? So select the period of time that is appropriate for your service. If you're not licensed for under 2s, for example, this is where you'd select do not provide for this age group. Being in a demonstration site, the data that we're looking at isn't real. The selection that I'm making isn't real for this service. You need to select what is appropriate for your service. Once we've done our waiting times, we simply click continue. So now these are about the languages spoken within your service and what time is spent. A good way to calculate that is if you think about for every 100 words for all of your teams within the service, how many of those words are spoken in different languages? Now, of course, your language selections are here. This is the ministry's list. So you'd select the languages that are spoken and what percentage of time. So let's pretend every, say, 80 words in 100 is spent speaking English. That would be 80%. So then selecting the languages that are spoken within your service, and let's pretend 10 words in every 100 are spoken in Te Reo Māori. Now, all of these selections need to add up to 100, and remembering too that with the new look version, you can start typing the selection that you want for you to get a shorter list for you to choose from. So making sure to populate all of the languages that are spoken, as you can see, up to 5, they need to be whole numbers and need to add up to 100. Once you've completed entering that, click continue. Great, now this is about the staff. And we've got really important information up here, which is taken from the ministry about who you need to include in the return as you do it. Now we've got some examples set up here. So starting with our first person here, we can say that you can click on their name to complete, and it tells you if they did work. So that means that they will be on one of your staff timesheets for the week of the ECE return. So you click on the employee's name, and now you need to select the role of this employee. Like I showed you here on this other tab, it breaks down what's considered senior management, support staff, specialist staff, etc. So reviewing that information, make the appropriate selections for your employee. We're going to say for this employee, they are a person who is an ECE teacher engaged in the care and education of children. Click continue. So now this is the information that the ministry wants you to populate about this teacher. So selecting whatever qualification it is that they have, if they have a qualification. Primary qualification, there we go. Now, because this staff member started within the last 12 months, what you need to do is enter whether or not they had worked permanently employed as an ECE teacher, yes or no, or has come directly from another ECE service, yes or no. Ethnicity has been populated from the information on the employee screen. You can update that here if you need to as well. Now, this is also about the employment as well. Does this person hold a current practicing certificate from the Teaching Council? Is this person paid for this role at your service? Is this person permanently appointed, as in a reliever, for example, is not permanently appointed? And is it a full-time role? So you're selecting all that apply. Now, when they have been on the staff timesheets, it will bring through their actual contact hours for you. So you don't need to worry about entering the times, it's automatically populated. The important thing here is that you can see across the top, these are the times that children actually attended that day. Now, a staff member cannot be in contact with children if there's no children in the service logically. So because the first child didn't arrive until 8 o'clock, the staff member can't have been in contact at 7:45 because there was no children. So just update the table with any times that need updating. For example, if they were recorded as being in contact until 4:30, that would produce an error because the last child left at 4 o'clock. So making sure that the start time and the end times are not outside the actual contact times. Great additional information is how many hours in total did this person work. So of course it needs to be more than their actual contact hours if they worked more than their contact hours. For example, the staff member might have come in at 7:30, for example. So it's recording the total amount of hours that they worked. Now, the age band as well, if you've populated employees' actual birth dates, it will show you the age of the employee here. Birth dates are not a required field in the employee screen. However, if you populate them, it does make it easier for you to select the appropriate age band. And this isn't auto-populated either. It does need to be selected as a ministry requirement. Clicking continue. So now what we can see is that this staff member has been included. So you're working through each of the employees on the list. For this person, we're going to say that they are a reliever and works that return. So their role is working with children. When we click continue, we're selecting any of their qualifications that they've got, or if they're unregistered, for example, is not in an ECE qualification leading. So this is for a reliever that doesn't have any qualifications and isn't in any study or anything. Ethnicity, once again, Also, whether they hold a current practicing certificate. Is this person paid? Yes, we've paid them as a reliever. Is this person permanently appointed? No, they're a reliever. Is it a full-time role? No, once again, they're a reliever. Then, of course, the hours that they worked, making sure that the hours aren't outside the times that children actually attended. Perfect. And so the total amount of hours that they worked within your service and their age band, you'll notice that the age isn't populated because we haven't recorded it for this employee. Perfect. Working through, we're going to use our Lola Rose as a support staff person. So this could be our administrator, for example. When we click continue, you'll notice that we've got fewer questions, whether they're paid, whether they're permanently appointed, and is it a full-time role? How many hours they worked at the service. Great. And we're just basically working through our list of employees, what qualifications they hold, their ethnicity, their position within your service, their contact hours brought across from the staff timesheet, total amount of hours worked, and their age band. Great. As you can see, there's a few things that you need to select for each of the employees. So we're just working through. Great. Okay, so you can see a message here where for teachers who are registered, you must select the qualification. So I'm not for, as I've mentioned, we are in a demonstration environment. So there is, it looks like they're real people, but it is just made up people along the way. Perfect. And selecting the number of hours that they worked and age band. Great. So this is another message where obviously the contact hours that they've worked is greater than what you've selected here. So you need to include the contact hours and any additional hours as well. So by the looks of it, we have got 4 hours a day across 4 days, 16. Perfect. Now, Primrose, we're going to use as an example of somebody who does work with children and also has a support staff role. So they can have multiple roles. If they have any qualifications, ethnicity, is this person paid? Yes. Is this person permanently appointed? Is it a full-time role? I'm going to say that this employee works for 20 hours a week. So now this is about the support staff role. So is this person paid? Is this person permanently appointed? And of course, have you got a full-time role? So for this one, the first role is for say 20 hours a week. The second role is for say 5 hours a week, but because they're separate roles, that's where they're not full-time because the individual roles are not full-time. And select the age band. Great, we are just about there, team. Now, what you'll notice too is that because this teacher has left within the last 12 months, we have to answer, or they've started and left, we have to answer these questions. So have they ever worked, employed ECE teacher, come from directly from another ECE? You select what is appropriate for your employees. Once again, ethnicity. So does this person hold a current practicing certificate? Because this person has left as at the ECE Return week, they're not paid for the service, for their role at your service. This person isn't permanently appointed because they've left, and it isn't a full-time role because they've left. Just one more name to complete. Just working through. And it could be that that staff member was on leave, but they would normally be working. Perfect. Now that we've included everybody that we needed to include, I just want to give you an example of somebody who you may choose not to include. So if we just select the employee, and then what we can do is say exclude from the return and click continue. Great. Because this employee has started and or left during this period, we do need to include them in the return. Perfect. But that would be how you would not include. So an example of somebody you wouldn't include would be an example of a reliever who didn't work the return week. But yeah, if you had anybody who started or left within that 12 months, then you do need to include them in the return, remembering that that's the teaching roles. Now all we need to do is click continue, and then by submitting the ECE return, you would confirm that all of the data contained in the return is correct for the week beginning on that specified date. Do you want to continue? You've got the option, of course, to click yes. You might have noticed too on the screen, if there was any time that you wanted to go back, you can just click on the back button. Now click yes to submit. Now, if you want to check to see that your ECE return has been submitted, now I see it swirling around at the moment, and I think that is because the ministry did have the ELI down today for maintenance, and it could be that it's still not yet up. So I apologise for this. Yeah, it is a problem that we've got there at the moment. So let me just get back in. Right. So once your ECE has been submitted, what you'd be able to do is come to Utilities, come to File, Download, and in this list here, you will have ECE Return for June of 2022.